This is Immigration Attorney Parviz Malakouti, and one of the top questions, maybe the top question that I get nowadays as an immigration attorney, especially in 2020, is what to do with an immigration case that is delayed, especially with USCIS. There are many different tools that one can utilize to deal with a delayed immigration case. I've made videos on how to make a USCIS expedite request, or for example, how to make a service request of USCIS, how to contact the USCIS ombudsman for assistance. I've also made videos about mandamus complaints. Those are all tools that you can utilize, but I want to talk about one particular tool in this video, and that is how to reach out to your US Congress member and request assistance with a delayed immigration case. First of all, everybody in the United States has a US representative, a US congressional man or woman, and part of the services that that US congressional rep offers to the constituencies is assistance with federal agencies, and immigration is right there at the top of the list. So most congressional offices will have staff that's dedicated to assisting constituents with these issues. So the first way you start is to find out who your Congress member is. Once you find out who your Congress member is, get the telephone number, call them up. Now, you're not going to get the Congress member themselves on the phone. It's very unlikely. You're most likely going to deal with staff, okay? And in my experience making these requests on behalf of my clients, usually the staff tends to be on the younger side. Usually they're energetic, at least in the beginning, and they want to help. But you have to understand one thing when you're dealing with this congressional office throughout the pendency of your request. These staff members are extremely overworked, okay? Many of them have many cases and a lot of obligations in addition to this casework in the office. So the point is, their time is limited and their attention is dispersed in many different ways. So in this video, I want to give you a few tips about how best to deal with the congressional office to increase the chances that you are able to A, get an interested case member that really wants to help you with your case, and B, increase the chances that they're able to actually break through that immigration case, do something so that your immigration case can continue on to the next level, okay? So first tip that I want to mention, and by the way, these are not super duper, heavy duty legal tips. These are kind of more common sense things, observations that I've picked up in my experience making these requests. The first thing is you want to always make sure you get the name of who you speak to every single time you call the congressional office. This helps it make it more personal. And secondly, you want to know who you spoke to so that if you have to make a reference to that conversation before, you know exactly who you spoke to, okay? Second tip that I have, which bleeds into the first one, is always make a note of every interaction you have with the congressional office, okay? So when you contact the congressional office to make this request, you should have Microsoft Word file open or a note on your computer or on your cell phone. And every time you speak to anybody from the office about your request, make a little note about exactly what was discussed, what you said, what the other person said, and keep that. This can be invaluable, especially if your case gets switched from one case worker to another, or if there's some sort of other hiccup in dealing with that congressional office. Third tip that I have is, even if you're dealing with the congressional office mostly via telephone, you want to make sure that you make your request at least one time via email. Most of the time, this is not something you're going to have to worry about because the vast majority of congressional offices, when you call to make a request for assistance, they're going to ask you to fill out a privacy release form for USCIS. This is a form that gives a permission to the Congress member to request information about your case from USCIS. So when you fill out that form and you email it to whoever the case manager is, you can include a little note in there making the formal request for assistance. This is very important. You want to make sure that you're not reliant on just saying, yeah, I spoke to so-and-so this day, and then maybe the case manager forgot about it, maybe they deny it. You want to have that email there so that it's irrefutable proof. See, look at this. I emailed you on this day, November 18th, 8:55 a.m. That's my request, okay? So that's my third tip. The fourth tip is you want to make sure that every single time you speak to the office, whether it be via telephone or via email about your request, you want to make sure you push the ball forward, always. And the way you do this is by asking each time, what is the next step? And when can we expect that next step to be taken? This is really important. You want to make sure that you're not communicating aimlessly back and forth with the office. You want to make sure that you understand and that the congressional reps, staff member that's dealing with you understands that you want to move this forward and you're constantly requesting a time and a date for the next step to be taken and that you're super clear on what the next step is that's going to be taken. My fifth tip is something that relates kind of to the fourth one, but this is just general advice. And that's that one of my favorite lines is closed mouths don't get fed. Another alternate way of phrasing this is it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. What I mean by this is you want to make sure that you're following up gently, politely, but aggressively. Okay, what does this mean? First of all, you're always going to be professional. You're never going to be rude. You're never going to be mean. But you want to make sure that you're constantly following up so that the congressional member that you're dealing with, their staff, knows you're serious and this matters to you and that you're not going to go away. You want to make sure you follow up aggressively, politely, always polite emails. Please, thank you, I appreciate it, etc., etc. But don't be afraid about communicating with that congressional office a lot to follow up with your request. So those are my tips. That's my 4 or 5 tips, depending on how you count them. And with regards to asking for assistance from these congressional offices, sometimes they're very effective, sometimes they're not effective. That's just the way it works. Sometimes contacting a congressional office will really help with the immigration case. It can break it loose from the logjam, move it forward. Sometimes it doesn't really do anything. But the reality is you won't know whether they're going to actually be able to help until you try it. There's no cost to making the request for assistance. It's completely free. It's just sweat equity. Okay, it's the time that you have to take into filling out whatever form they ask you and then following up constantly with the congressional offices. That's it for this video. If you want assistance with this, feel free to contact my office for a consultation. I do charge for a consultation, but if you become my client within 30 days of the consultation, I credit the entire consultation fee to it. Okay, so it's up to you. Maybe you want to give it a shot on your own, see if you can get somewhere. If not, maybe contact me or another attorney for assistance. Hope this video helped. Have a great day.